What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing well. Today I've got for you a truly crazy Reddit relationship story. In fact, when I first read the title and started reading a little bit of the post, I genuinely couldn't believe that this was real. But it is, and that's what I'm going to show you today. In this one, this man is sadly never allowed to nap, sleep, anything by his wife. It sounds crazy, but it's true. So without further ado, sit back, relax, subscribe if you're new to the channel. Let's get into this mental story with a couple of updates to come as well. I am a 36-year-old man, and my wife, who is 38, will not let me take a nap. She always wakes me up or does her best to prevent me from falling asleep. What can I do to understand? This was originally posted on June the 15th, 2024. Hello all. I work for an agricultural company where my weekly hours fluctuate between 60 and 120, while also working on getting a degree. My amazing bride is a homemaker by choice. All of this is okay. My issue comes from on occasion I am exhausted and will start to fall asleep, or will purposefully go try to take a nap. Our entire marriage, 11 years, she has woken me up or flat refused to let me fall asleep. I've tried talking to her numerous times and she is unable to articulate what the issue is. Today I got off early after 10 straight 16-hour days. I took her on a lunch date, then came home and decided to take a quick nap before working on school. Within minutes of laying down, she's come into the room and has begun shaking me, turning on lights and other obnoxious behaviour. How can I articulate to her my need for an occasional nap? And how can I get her to articulate what her apparent unmet needs are so I do not go insane? Because it's at a point where I'm feeling disrespected and unappreciated. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Okay, the next day, OP added this edit. Thanks all of you so much for the responses. I've tried to read all of them and reply. I truly was not expecting this kind of response over what I thought was a me not communicating clearly problem. It is clear that there is more at play here, and I'll be working with my therapist to develop two plans. One, much to many's dismay, to try and work with my bride one last time to address and fix the underlying issue, and two, a way out for if plan one fails. Again, thank you all for the kind words, the pointed yet truthful words, and even for some of the more extreme suggestions. There truly are great people left on the planet. Okay, now let's jump into some relevant comments from the first post that sort of sum up what the people of Reddit were saying in response to it. A few people thought that OP's wife is being a brat and disrespectful. OP replied, "Thank you for your candor. We definitely have some issues that stem from her personality. In all fairness, I'm not perfect. Your suggestion of napping at work, though, has possibilities. I have an office with a couch, just have never considered it because of optics and not wanting my wife to think that I'm falling back into my habit of working to avoid her. As for not leaving her, it stems from being unable to go against my word. I promised her hell and back as many times as it takes, or until I croak." Someone else said, "Tell her to flat out leave you alone to nap when you need it, or you're thinking of separation as a way of solving her problem of not letting you sleep. It's been 11 years. This isn't something innocent. She's doing this on purpose. It's disrespectful and very annoying. You've put up with it for 11 years. What's your next move?" Now that, guys, is kind of what I'm thinking. I don't understand this anyway, but yeah, that is the length I'd go to. It's insane not being allowed to sleep by your partner, even though you're working so hard, or just anyway. It's crazy to me. OP says, "Thank you for your thoughts. I've considered separation in the past. My inability, though, to break my word and some religious beliefs seem to have me stuck trying to fix a broken car with duct tape." Okay, maybe OP even realizes this is not really going anywhere. Someone replied to this saying, "Does your religion have anything to say about staying in a physically abusive marriage?" And I think that's a good point. That is what this is now. Essentially, OP says, outside of sexual infidelity, leaving a marriage is unacceptable. I find this to be a trap, but I also know to leave means losing what little support I do have. It's a mess, plus my own issues, and it really gets complicated. Someone else has said, "Sleep deprivation is a kind of torture. Quite frankly, I'm amazed that you haven't snapped and said something very cutting. I turn into a grumpy bear when I don't get enough sleep, and she is acting like a toddler." OP says that actually he has in the past. It was a point of contention in counselling for years. My reactions to her behaviour, that is. I now try to respond and not react. Somebody said in response to the above comment, "My God, what did the counsellor say?" to change my reactions to responses, and to talk through the issue. She gave us some tools, but my wife has chosen to not practice them. I don't get it, guys. Why is a counselor saying this? Why aren't they just flat saying to your wife, let the man sleep, let him have a nap? I don't get it. Someone else asked, I'm intrigued as to why you have an old habit of working to avoid her. People in happy and healthy relationships usually don't try to actively avoid one another. OP says, she has moments where nothing is good enough, so I would use work to avoid her. The avoiding has not been an issue for several years now. Now, when I work late, it's to pay bills. Somebody else commented, I can't imagine doing this to someone working that many hours, let alone someone I love. You need to have a heart-to-heart or go to counselling. OP says, we've tried counselling and the only thing that changes is seemingly me, which the counsellors say is wrong, but I'm not her dad. Paraphrasing, of course. So what do you do? I think the answer is you leave, my friend. That is the comment I agree with the most, by the way. How can you do this to somebody that you love? It's insane. Unless you jump to the conclusion, like maybe I'm doing, that she is not the right person for you. Now, somebody else on Reddit wasn't as supportive as the comments I've just read through for OP. They said, I'm not buying 120 hours a week. That would leave you 6.85 hours per day for sleeping, showering, going on lunch dates, bills, driving to and from work, brushing your teeth, eating breakfast and dinner, packing your lunch, and any other daily task that is done at a bare minimum. And that is coming from someone who's worked 110 hours a week before. It's such an unreasonable stretch to do that. Unless you're paying for everyone to wait on you hand and foot, and you're counting your commute to work as working time. So, therefore, I'm not buying the rest of the story because it seems embellished or over-exaggerated anyway. But OP says that sadly it's true. Your maths is correct. There is no time. The lunch dates only happen when I get off early like yesterday. Also, the insane hours only last for a few months, then taper back to 60. But during that stretch, I do not sleep much. I've gotten used to it over the years, but it gets harder every year. My job is seasonal in that I work like an insane person for 2 months, get a month or two break, and then back to insane. Over the years, I've gained some control over the amount of hours, but when you need money, you work when you can. Hard to feed and shelter 2 people on 50k gross. Now, a little bit further on, OP explained his past and how the marriage was at the beginning, saying, I can share some of the stuff that I have processed. I was abused as a child in several ways, and when my parents found out about one particular way, they chose to punish me, which started a cycle of internalizing, and since then, I've always thought I deserve anything that happens, especially the not so pleasant. I had anger issues for a long time. I'm happy to say that I've learned to have relatively decent anger control at this point. My therapist and I are working on changing how I perceive myself. It's not going well, clearly. The marriage started with her telling me that she was pregnant, and then that turned out to be a lie that I didn't discover until after the marriage. He goes on to say that given the state of my blood pressure, that is not hyperbole. She claimed she was pregnant. Naturally, I wanted to do the honourable thing. It really isn't, and the fact that society says it is asinine, and I married her. I found out afterwards that she's actually incapable of having children. I'd already given my vow at that point, so I stayed. It was hell for both of us for the first few years. We went to therapy to save the marriage, sunk cost fallacy and religion mixed with my own issues, and all that changed was me. And then finally, OP says, yeah, the simple answer is that I have hated myself since childhood. I'm working on it. It's not easy to change something that was ingrained into you young. You're also correct in that I would not treat someone like I do myself. Okay, so there we go. That is it for the original post and some comments. And I've got to say, just as an outsider looking in, her behavior, I agree with that one comment, is so abusive. Based on everything you've said, I actually understand why you're still in the relationship. It's clear, OP, that you have a lot of issues. If OP was listening to this, I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying it. And you guys watching or listening to this episode probably agree with me. There's a lot going on here, and a lot of it is extremely understandable, but that doesn't excuse the fact that you've just got to get out of there, my friend. You've got to go. At some point, you have to look past your own principles and the vows and the fact that you married and just look at this person objectively if you can and just say, oh my gosh, she's an absolute witch. I cannot live my life like this anymore. That's what I think anyway. But yeah, as I said in the intro, there are a couple of updates to come. Let's get into the first. Okay, first of all, let's get into a mini update that OP posted in the comments on July the 4th, almost 3 weeks after the original. I have no clue how to do an update, so all can see it. But we tried having a conversation the Monday after the original post that turned into insanity. I came home late 2 days later to the house being completely empty. She even took the curtains, curtain rods, and the hangers, leaving holes in the wall. She's since turned everything as my fault and is demanding to come back so she can help me. I have a meeting with an attorney scheduled. Okay, goodness me, that is absolutely crazy. To be honest, at this point, it's kind of what I expect from this woman. Alright, then let's get into a more sizable update 11 days later. The Monday after making the post, she picked a fight over the yard not being mowed. After telling her I was done with the way she was behaving, she refused to accept this and said she would never leave. Fast forward now to Wednesday night. I came home late again to find 2 vehicles with trailers loaded with everything we owned, minus papers and her designer bags. When I walked in the house, she and her family left. Thankfully, the landlord had a couch that I could sleep on using my clothes as bedding because they took everything needed to live, including, as I said, yanking the curtains and curtain rods off the wall. To be fair, if you weren't allowed to sleep anyway, that's not really going to make much of a difference. Thursday night I came home and she was back. This time she tried picking a fight by chasing me around the house and lunging at me. When I told her I'd call the sheriff if she didn't leave, she began twisting and hitting her forearm, screaming she was going to hurt herself and tell the sheriffs I hurt her. Yeah, this woman is officially crazy. I left the house and I called the sheriffs for help. They were able to provide me a way to leave as her family was on the way back. Since then, she has sent 2,000 text messages, flipping between wanting to come back and me being the worst man alive. My attorney filed for a petition for divorce this past Friday. She'll be served this week and I'm anticipating her to go postal. If anything happens, I'll let all you great folks know. Thanks to each and every one of you that commented on the original post. It was you who opened my eyes and helped me take the opportunity of her leaving to end this nightmare. Well, that is good news. Now, to round things off, let's first have a look at some comments before also, now I'm not sure about this and we'll discuss it when we get there, potentially reading a comment from OP's ex, which OP replied to on Reddit. Somebody said, honestly, I'm so relieved for you that the hard part is done. Do not take her back. You may be out of furnishings and curtains, but you have your livelihood and you no longer have to support her. And you can nap whenever you want. She sounds immature and abusive. I'd recommend recording any further interactions with her. I'm really glad the sheriff helped you out of the last situation. If she is willing to hurt herself to frame you, who knows what else she is capable of. OP says, there is no going back. Thankfully, my attorney was swift and shrewd. He filed for final hearing at the same time as the petition, so we are set to finish this nightmare quickly. Final, hopefully, is set for September 18th. He read the text and noted how crazy she was and decided this needed to end ASAP. And finally, somebody said, it's not really a nightmare if you're not allowed to sleep though, right? I'll see myself out. Now, before we round things off, have a look at this. Now, this is allegedly OP's ex on Reddit who said this. She replied to the original post saying the following: Lester, this is all incorrect information and false information. You are the one who got mad at me for no reason and started screaming at me to get my belongings and get out and divorce in my face, not once but multiple times, and literally like 6 times, which I never did that to you, nor did I leave. You kicked me out and went to sleep on the couch. I didn't force you to sleep on the couch. Also, guys, don't let him fool you. He also had beds, 3 extra beds, which belonged to the landlord. Also, that furniture is and was mine, as I've accumulated it before we were married. Little hint that technically it really wasn't my furniture in the first place. It belonged to my mum. So the route you're taking is not the right and best option. Also, maybe you should leave other people out of our marriage as well. Also, you told your dad a lie because, again, as I go back to where you had 3 extra beds available and that you chose to sleep on the couch, so please don't let him fool you all. Also, he forgot to mention that he put me, his wife, out on the highway with a pickup that needed lots of maintenance, shocks, struts, all 4 wheel bearings replaced, alignment, all 4 tyres where they were so bald and bare to where the wire was showing, and I had no help from him to help me get it fixed to where it was safe and not jeopardizing my life or other people's lives. Thankfully, Jesus was with me this whole time during this time and whenever I would go to work. OP then replied to this absolutely insane message, I'm not going to lie, that was a struggle to read, saying, Do not lie, nor forget I have receipts to prove everything, including you stalking me and breaking into my home and using a phone you turned off to impersonate me. So there we go. That is the end of the story and the posts so far. To be honest, I'm not sure if I want any more updates because I don't know what's going on at all. And I hope for OP's sake that he just gets out of there as quickly as he can. It sounds as if that plan is in place now, and it should be done at the time of recording in just a couple of months. So I guess that is good news. Yeah, well, I can't really understand what I just read. Even if it wasn't from OP's ex, maybe it was. I mean, we don't have any way of really knowing, but she can't write. Just putting it out there. Sorry. But yeah, guys, get in the comments down below. What do you think about this whole debacle? I do genuinely think that OP probably is telling the whole truth and that his ex-wife is just absolutely insane. And the only reason it's taken him this long to see this is firstly because of his values, but secondly because of all the stuff that's happened to him in his life, sadly. But yeah, let me know what you think. Comment down below. That was a crazy story.